Donald Trump defeating Kamala Harris to win the 2024 election. The former president performed well across battleground states and rural areas, improving on the 2020 performance in nearly every small red country and county across Georgia and North Carolina. To discuss, we're joined by Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman and Ben Werschkul. Great to have you both here with us to help us break this down a little bit further. And so as we're just thinking of the overall reaction here, Rick, what does this kind of signal to you from what we've seen ultimately, just to begin some of the balance of power that's still yet to be netted out fully here?
Well, if we want to talk about one of the things that investors care about most and consumers, it's those 2017 tax cuts. And just to remind everybody, the tax cuts for individuals were temporary. They expire at the end of 25, at the end of next year. All of the business and corporate tax cuts were permanent. So there's this huge question, what's going to happen with these tax cuts that expire at the end of 25? And Kamala Harris's position and Democrats' position in general is let all the tax cuts expire for people earning more than $400,000, call it $500,000, while the tax cuts remain for what you would call more typical Americans earning less than that. So if Democrats keep the House, let's call that a 50-50 prospect, they will have some leverage to do that, to let the tax cuts for wealthy Americans expire while they stay in place for everybody else. If Republicans win the House, I think they're just going to, very likely to just extend all the tax cuts for everybody. So tax rates basically remain the same. The big secondary issue there is that means a big increase in the deficit, and we will be talking for years about the implications of that.
Yeah, and Ben, you were about to add on.
On the Republican sweep scenario, I think is important for our audience is timing. If Republicans sweep, they use a process that's called reconciliation. I won't get into the weeds of it, but it basically means Republicans can move fast and move on their own. So if Republicans control the House, Senate, and the presidency, they can do it on their own, and they've talked about doing it in Trump's first 100 days. So if it's a House that's controlled by Republicans, they have a lot of leverage to move quickly. If it's a Democrat, this is an entire year-long debate with bipartisan back and forth that goes all the way probably to December. So
yeah, and that was something we were talking about earlier as well, just what would be prioritized within those first 100 days. Of everything that was campaigned on, what do you think is most likely for Trump to really begin kind of going down his checklist on?
I think tariffs will be big in terms of economic issues. That is what Trump talks about all the time. His people have made plans. There's these old laws from the 70s that could give the president more power to levy tariffs than even Trump did in his first term. They're talking about them. They're thinking about them. So I think that's going to be an early one. Immigration is another big one. He's talked about massive deportations. I think he's going to make a big effort in that. And then I think a lot of it depends on this balance of power. If they do have a unified thing, they're going to have a big legislative agenda they're going to try to get done really quickly.
There's the balance of power, but then there's also the makeup of your cabinet. Who are the voices that you're listening to and surrounding yourself with? What are your anticipations for how that's shaping up there?
Well, I mean, I think the most important thing there is that Trump's billionaire buddies are going to be in charge of much of this agenda. And I don't think many of them are actually going to be appointed to cabinet positions. I mean, one exception could be John Paulson, the hedge fund guy, who basically is lined up to be the Treasury Secretary. But, you've got obviously Elon Musk, an example, Peter Thiel, the other example. They don't want to take jobs in the government. They want to sort of install other people they can control in jobs in the government. And, Musk, of course, wants to, reorganize the government and, cut the huge federal bureaucracy. I don't think he's going to have a chance of doing that. They care a lot about tech policy, hands off the big tech companies, no regulation. They care about antitrust, just let all the mergers go through. And we're going to be talking about this a lot, but just to go back to this really important pocketbook issue, if people don't know this now, I don't know how they couldn't know this now, but higher tariffs mean the cost of products goes higher. Somebody pays more for those products, and in all cases, the importers or the producers or whatever, they always pass on as much of that added cost to the end user, you, the consumer at home, as they can. And that is driving a lot of what we're calling the Trump trade right now.
Rick and Ben, thanks so much for taking the time here with us today.